Hey, Indiana.
Oh, I don't know if you heard me. Hello. To anyone who's joining
Oh,
us, give folks a couple minutes and then we'll get started.
okay,
Yeah. How are you?
I'm okay. If you saw a fake announcement on the budget,
I saw. Oh my goodness.
that's not, imagine how I feel.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
You want to put it on that one or this one?
If we can put it on this one, that would be great.
Okay, I'm gonna put
If-
it on
if not,
here,
it's-
just, I'm
Okay,
gonna put it on both.
Okay,
That way, just in
thank you.
case,
Perfect.
I think it'll be fine if you just screen share.
Okay.
I like this better.
Thank you. My sister gave it to me for my birthday.
You're good, you don't.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Period. Or neck was mouse. Okay. So let's put it on your desktop. To erase all of this so you don't get confused.
Thank you.
It'll be there. Take the flash drive.
And then whenever I want to share it,
It's gonna be right here, so then you can do, let's practice.
Yes. okay,
Share,
got it.
and then boom. And then it should come up for everybody to see.
Perfect.
That's good, and then from there, you manipulate it, like zoom out, I guess,
We need to put up the agenda, right?
on the screen. It's up to you, Furrow. It's on, everything is on Airtable, so if you want somebody to be able to just go on their phone, you can tell them,
Okay,
and they can see it on their phone.
okay.
And everything's printed out too.
Yeah, about that. Thank you.
Looks pretty good. You want me to stop sharing for now?
Yes, please.
I'll be here for a little while, so if you need help.
Okay, thank you. Actually,
Yeah.
maybe I won't do it every time, but this time, if you can put the agenda up
On where?
on.
On the screen?
Yeah, please. Sorry, I like, at least for this one, because
Alright, let me just.
let me just see one thing. All right, folks, thank you for joining us. I see several of our committee members are online, and we're just going to give it 1 or 2 more minutes because I think we will have all our committee online today. Those here. And then,
Indiana, you're the city council, right? I don't know, it's very committee.
all right, folks, we are just dealing with a quick camera difficulty, but then we will get started. Sorry, I don't know what happened. The video just turned off and it says Zoom is unable to detect a camera.
It might be the
All right, everybody, thank you so much for your patience. We really appreciate it. It is 6:45, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Let me just make sure everyone can hear me. Hope you can. So, hello, welcome to the CB12, Manhattan CB12's Housing and Human Services Committee meeting. It is May 7th, 2026, and we appreciate folks who are here in person, our folk who is here in person, and also those joining us online. I'm just putting our start time at 6:45 before I forget. Hello, welcome. Hello, hi. I didn't recognize you. We literally just started, so thank you so much.
You have this, oh,
The sign, yes. Here.
and you hide from the sun.
All right.
That's like you're very, very nose like blinding.
So we just got started. So again, this is the CB12 Housing and Human Services Committee meeting for May 7th, 2026. We will likely have a pretty short meeting today. We had secured a couple of speakers, and for various reasons, they're not here. So I'm going to start by putting up our agenda and sharing that with folks online as well. If I can find it. Okay. Let me unzoom a little bit. And I don't know how to do like a full screen here, so. All right, so we have called to order at 6:45 p.m. In terms of introductions, hello, my name is Indiana Porta, and I am the chair of the Housing and Human Services Committee. And we are going to do a quick round of introductions, starting with those here in the room. And then, actually, maybe I'll start with those who are online, and then we can finish up here in the room. So if folks online can take a moment to unmute and introduce themselves, please.
Hi, folks. I can kick it off. Sorry to be virtual today, a little under the weather, but I'm Stefan De Jesus. I'm a member of the Housing and Human Services Committee, and also a member of the Youth and Education Committee, and happy to be here.
Thank you.
I'll follow it. I'm Sonia Figueroa Reillo. Also not happiest with being virtual, but health-wise, it was needed. But yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. And I'm sorry I don't know how to get the Zoom windows to show that you guys are here with us. So let me see. Maybe there we go. And then how do let me unpin this. And
I'm sorry, I dropped for a second for a work call.
that's all right. So we're just doing a round of introductions.
You want me to do mine?
Absolutely.
I'm Jay Bias. Been a part of the community board for the past 3 or 4 years, and I was born and raised in Weston Heights. Welcome to everyone who's either there in person or online.
Thank you. And we've got Marshall.
Yeah, let me jump in. Good evening, folks. I'm Marshall Vanderpool. I'm the public member of the Housing and Human Services Committee, and it's been a rough day, and I'm landing right here.
Oh man, well, thank you for joining us after a rough day. This should be a relatively quick meeting, I think.
Hello all, I'm Lisette Tavares. I was born and raised in Washington Heights. I'm entering my second year on the community board. I'm on housing and I'm also on licensing. And I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Hey guys, Eitan Steinbaum here. Also, this is around the 1 year anniversary of being on the community board. And I'm not on this committee, but I'm the vice chair of land use as well as a member of concerns aging committee. So happy to be here and see what goes on in the housing committee and see how we could collaborate more.
Amazing.
Happy to have.
Thank you so much. All right. So, just again, super quickly to return to our agenda, we don't have anybody here for public comment. And I don't see anybody online either. So we will move ahead. We do not have any updates from elected representatives or any community organizations at our meeting. We had hoped, as I mentioned earlier, to have a representative from, somebody from Representative Adriano Espaillat's office to come to speak with us about some of the, legislative priorities at the federal level, talk to us a little bit about some of the changes that our community is experiencing with cuts to SNAP food benefits, which we passed a resolution as a committee and then later as a board last month. We had also asked whether the representative had commented on proposed changes to eligibility for HUD housing, and I hope we'll get updates for that and some of the other questions soon. I had also asked for potential updates on some of the other housing initiatives. I think that maybe that is the elected official that we can get probably the most concrete information about for NYCHA funding. Since it seems like the city, has like limited funding and authority over NYCHA. So hopefully we will have somebody come and join us at future meetings. We had also planned to hear from HPD about the Inwood 9th Avenue project, which is going to have a mixed residential building that will have some affordable housing in it, that also the initiative supports. I think it's going to be like a bioscience, like semi-aquatic institution, and maybe some folks from our land use can speak to that as well. But they're not able to join us today, and so they're going to present at our June meeting. I would encourage committee members and board members and our community to take a moment and look at the New York City housing website. It is hyperlinked if not, I will hyperlink it in the agenda and in the meeting minutes. So you can just get a sense of some of the community planning. I think I was part of that last year and maybe a little bit the year before, where they had a big event where members of the community came and talked about what kind of nonprofit organizations they would like to see affiliated with the program, whether they wanted a science geared nonprofit. I think some of the other proposals had to do with workforce development. There were questions about what the common areas should be used for. And so they did a report, which is available on their website if you wanted to see that. And then in December, hello, good to see you. In December, they put out a press release announcing who they had chosen as the nonprofit partners that would be part of the initiative. And so they will come and present to us, but we can kind of study up and maybe prepare a very robust list of questions for next month. And then the other presenter that we had on the books for this presentation, but then we asked to come next month because we were going to have HPD present this month, was going to be a representative from Senator Jackson's office. So they're not here, but it is not because they didn't want to be here. We had asked them to come next month. And so I have put at the bottom of our agenda the two bills that they're going to present on, which includes the Tenants' Bill of Rights And also the HDFC tax benefits bill, which we actually heard from the HDFC coalition about in our previous meeting in April. So they wanted to come and talk to us about why they felt that this bill was important. And so they will join us, if not in June, because we'll be hearing from HPD, then in September. And, you know, in my conversations with them, they said that they think, you know, it's not like we'll miss the boat if we hear from them in September. So it might be that they come in September along with the HDFC coalition. And that gives us, again, time to really, you know, follow up on the things that we learned at our April meeting and maybe like do a concrete list of questions that maybe we can even share in advance, so that they've got also time to prepare their responses. By way of a quick recap, I think that there was support for the extending the bills and ensuring that these, you know, this kind of affordable housing continues to be supported and continues to exist in our district, which has one of the highest levels of HDFC units and properties. There were some questions about the resale price and whether there should be caps on the resale price versus selling at market rate. And, you know, I think that we've heard valid arguments, I think, on both sides. So if anybody knows an organization that has kind of an opposing view that thinks that the resale price should be capped, certainly, you know, we encourage you to invite them to this meeting. And so really, there's not much more that we're gonna have on our agenda today, other than the resolution for the rent guidelines board. But before we dive into that, maybe I will give you an opportunity, Tom, to like talk about the work that the aging committee is doing and your proposal.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So as a member of the aging committee, a lot of the members of the committee are going to the other committees that they serve on to present about, or just to do informal presentations about aging and raising awareness and consciousness about issues of aging that come up both generally and in relation to the topics of each committee. So for example, at the land use committee last night, we talked about both, you know, how people experience general forms of discrimination, so we can relate that to what ageism might be like, because not everyone relates to ageism, but it's something that we hopefully will all relate to. And then also, we talked about discrete forms of ageism that can appear in the land use context, which is also extremely relevant to the housing context. So for example, things like aging in place, which has become a very hot button political issue, you know, both ways. And it's something that we think should be a priority for the land use committee, as well as the community board, and perhaps this committee as well, because, you know, there's so many seniors that might be being pushed out of their homes because of affordability issues or accessibility issues, but homes that people have lived in their whole lives, you know, not only are important on some sentimental level and for preserving the neighborhood, but are also sometimes the places where people feel safe. They might not have other places to go, and things like that. Also, in terms of, like I mentioned before, accessibility and things like that when it comes to ageism, and the land use context. And so, yeah, so those are some examples. If people were interested in going around and sharing some experiences or sharing some thoughts, that'd be great, but no expectations, since this is just sprung on y'all. So, but anything works.
I mean, I would be happy to start and just
Yeah,
kind
sure.
of share what I shared at yesterday's land
thank
use
you.
meeting, which for me, you know, like I mentioned that I have had lupus since I was 18, but it, you know, it's kind of like one of those hidden chronic conditions, hidden disabilities. But when I became a wheelchair user a couple of years ago, right, it really opens your eyes to like so many little things, right? Like even as somebody that had challenges and mobility issues before, it's just like so much more augmented, right? And so the idea of being able to age in place resonates with me, right? I lived on a first floor unit, and there were steps to get into my building, so I couldn't live there anymore, right? And little things like, you know, it's like a little bit off topic what I raised yesterday, but things like in our new developments that are required to have accessible units and things like that, I'm hearing from other wheelchair users in the community that big accessibility issues like having ramps and things like that are there. But that maybe once they get into their units, the outlets that are supposed to be lower, or like the little peephole that is supposed to be lower, things like that are not actually accessible. To me, what that shows is nobody's going in and checking compliance, right? And so little things like that. The other issue that I raised, which is related, not exactly on point, but things like in our community, we have so many. Thank you. Oh my God. So I'm hoping that that shutdown of the elevator is something.
You can just do one.
Okay, all right. The other thing too is just little things like to get into a business, right? There are 2-3 inches that keep me from going into a business. And we assume that somebody maybe with a walker can lift it and pop up, but maybe not, right? So those are like my small contributions, and I welcome anybody else's online and here in the room.
Thank you.
Well, if nobody has anything, I wanna thank you for coming, because since the last general board meeting, I had a conversation with I think her name is Isabella Abreu. She presented.
Yeah,
She's
sure.
from Al Taylor. So I had a little side conversation with her. And I was thinking that maybe we can possibly invite her to come and speak.
Yeah.
Because she told me I guess it came up how a lot of our aging population and elders are being unhoused. Because like you said, they're priced out, or they can no longer afford it. So they're actually being pushed out and they're being housed now. So we have homeless elders in our community that have lived there for many years. So I was like, how can we, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because it's like, how can we work together, or maybe with our elected officials, and bring some light to that?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna, sorry, did I, no, I was gonna say in that light, I think that, often when we're talking this resolution, which is about, rent stabilization, is really important, but often, we don't necessarily talk about the market rate apartments, and it's not like, especially in Washington Heights and Inwood, it's not like the people that are living in market rate apartments are more affluent people. So we often have to think about what kind of protections do people in market rate apartments have, whether it's good cause eviction protections or whether they may not have any protections. So that can force people out.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you see the phone number on the attendees, Indiana? That's Lori. She was having a lot of difficulty. I've been on the phone with her.
Okay.
If you can promote her, yeah, there you go. There you go, Lori. You're promoted.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Lori, for joining us. We will pivot in just a moment.
Yeah, so I'll just
No,
wrap up.
There's no rush, honestly,
Thank you.
and if you wanted to share any of the ideas or issues that were raised at yesterday's meeting,
Sure, yeah. So just on the previous vein, in terms of thinking about what we can do to protect market rate tenants, and that might include things like scree and dree, raising income caps for that, lobbying our state electeds for things like that, to protect market rate tenants. Because right now I think it's like $50,000 for scree. I'm not sure what it is for dree. So that's really important. And again, when it comes just generally, when it comes to ageism, it is another type of discrimination. It's not something that we necessarily talk about because people aren't always comfortable talking about aging, especially if they are in a category of older adult. And but it's also not something that maybe has the same kind of history as more as forms of discrimination like racism, sexism, homophobia, and things like that. But it is something we need to keep in mind, especially as we have larger and larger communities of older adults. And I would love to work with this committee and other committees in, seeing how in the future, when there's resolutions or things like that, how we can look at, that through the aging perspective. So when it comes to things like land use, that might say, okay, we got an applicant for a BSA application or for ULURP. What are the aging issues that come up there? And that could be, you know, that's similar to this committee, even though it doesn't deal with the same exact types of applications, but we're talking about the same developments and things like that. And so that's all I have to say, and I appreciate everyone for taking the time, and I appreciate Indiana for bringing it up. And if anyone else has anything to share, and if not, I will pass it back.
I do have something I'd like to bring up. I think, on this committee before, we've heard from people in the community who are having issues with, supers or landlords not attending to the needs of their rented apartments. And I think oftentimes, and something that I've experienced with my own grandmother who lives in Washington Heights, or used to, and now doesn't, is that it's very easy for older adults to be ignored because they may not have the power or support to speak up for themselves. That could be because they're older, and so they just my grandmother who's dealing with dementia, she may not have been able to even remember who it was to call or know to really push to get things fixed within her apartment. But these are people who are still entitled to a fair and decent living environment. And so I think there's also the issue of the sort of like loneliness epidemic, but as it relates to older adults where maybe your family around you is no longer with you anymore, and how it is. I think we need to think about how it is that we can continue to support our older adults in our community, and ensure that they have support, whether that's like home attendance or someone advocating for them when it comes to ensuring that their housing needs are met.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, I think that's a great point, especially about how easy it is that some people might ignore other groups of people, and that's something also to keep in mind.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, and I understand you may not be able to speak to this off the cuff, but have you guys had any conversations about the legislation at the state level, whether home care should be 24 hours or
I don't know anything about it. I've seen
meeting a little bit?
it hasn't come up.
Okay.
I have seen the people
Yeah.
outside City Hall, but besides that, I don't know too much about it, so I
Okay.
can't speak to it. But do you have?
I don't. No, I
Okay.
don't. And so
I can speak to it if you want me to.
yeah, even just
I
like
mean,
a little, right? Since we're on
yeah.
the top.
So there's a couple things here. First is that there's this thing called the 13-hour rule. This is the problem that the home care workers are actually trying to fight, but it's actually a state issue because it's a
That's what I
policy
thought.
decision.
Yeah.
It is a policy decision by the State Department of Labor that says if you're working 24 hours, but you get 8 hours of uninterrupted, which means 5 hours of uninterrupted sleep and 3 hours of lunch breaks, then you get paid 13 hours instead of all 24 hours that you're in someone's home taking care of them. And there's an active legal case, civil lawsuit that Legal Aid is representing the workers on this issue to combat that rule. The version that the city council is actually doing won't solve the problem at all. It's like a false hope sort of solution. They're like basically gonna find the providers, from my understanding. I mean, from my understanding, there might be another iteration coming, and if it is, it gets worse. But the problem is not a city problem; it's a state problem because regardless of you mandating providers doing 12-hour shifts instead of 24-hour, one, you don't know that you have the workforce for that. Two, when we're talking about sort of doing that decision, it's actually the health plans that determine the assessment and will tell you like, yes, I will approve 24 hours or no. And actually when you do when you have a 24-hour case that is split and you want to like split that into two 12-hour people, the plan, that's a higher threshold in consideration, that means that that person needs more like actual care throughout the entire time. The 24-hour cases is that the plans are assessing, they're saying basically like, oh no, you have a case where we know that you can actually go to sleep and not be interrupted. But the workers are arguing that's not true for every case, which is, yeah, it depends on every person. So honestly, what the city council doing will not really solve the problem for anyone. For me, I would say it's truly just false hope that you're giving the workers. Even Legal Aid, who is representing the workers, is opposing that bill at the city council. So that's sort of the issue. And it all falls down with money, because you're talking about basically Medicaid, which means if you split every 24-hour shift to 12 hours, it means an extra stat, like you need an extra employee for every case, which we know for a fact is not possible, especially upstate for people. It's really hard to find home care up there. So that's sort of the issue. And last time we had tried to address this at the state under Cuomo, there was like a fiscal analysis from them that was in the billions.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about it is because last year we passed a resolution that's not exactly on point, but it was also dealing with an issue that home healthcare workers were dealing with, or I guess it's like a type of home health support program, right? Where you could identify somebody and it didn't have to be like going through specific home health care agencies. There was an issue about consolidating all of the like funding and like payment and services and things like that into
Talking about
one.
CDPAP.
Huh?
You're talking about CDPAP.
Yes,
That's when the
exactly.
patient, a lot of the home care that's provided is under CDPAP. That's when the patient can designate someone. It could be a family member as their caretaker. That's another version of the same thing for home care.
Yeah.
But when you're under the CDPAP program, and this is the problem with that city council bill, because you're finding the employer. Under the way that program works, the patient is considered the employer.
Mm,
So you're going to fine the patients for something they don't control.
got it.
Yeah. It's
Thank you for that.
a little ridiculous what they're trying to do in the city.
Okay, well, I have no opinion on that, but certainly it's interesting to, to hear like the other side of it. And, I know from other wheelchair users that I engage with, they're certainly keeping an eye on what happens. So I appreciate that information and that update. Thank you, Jay. Does anybody else have anything on this topic? If not, we will have Lori update us. Let me make sure she's unmuted.
I just wanted to jump in on
Yeah.
what Jay had said as far as the patient being the employer. That sounds like a very tenuous situation you're putting the patient in, because I'm thinking there's a diminished capacity as it is. And then when I think about employers, I think about taxes. And it sounds like an onerous thing for the patient to try to handle. And maybe I'm spitballing here, but I'll just leave that out there. That's a concern.
Definitely. Thank you for raising that. All right, Lori.
Hi, good evening. Before I start, I have to give a shout out to Liz Ritter, who gave me your phone numbers, and that enabled me to circumvent the technology crisis that I've been having, trying to join this meeting since 6:25.
Oh, wow.
Yes. All righty. So I hope everyone can hear me okay. I just want to share some information.
Do you maybe just
From
want to give us
the-
a quick intro of what office you're
Sure.
with? Thank you.
Sure. I work for Congressman Adriano Espaillat. There's a small team of us in the district office at 720 West 181st Street. I've been with him actually since before he became a Congress member. And we have another district office, which is in the Adam Clayton Powell State Office Building in Harlem. And of course, we have the DC office. And at the community board, I share, in depth what it is that we do on behalf of our constituents. And I was asked by Jay some time ago for an overview of the congressman's response to the proposed rulemaking with HUD Act, that Housing and Community Development Act of 1980. Honestly, he led 75 colleagues in the House in the submission of this letter. And he says, or the letter says, well, this is typical of the Trump administration, that they're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. And basically, they're asking that it be returned, that they forego this action and rely on the Housing and Community Development Act of 1980. And basically what that stipulates is that, this is all about, by the way, this is all about not wanting to spend money to house, undocumented people, or people who are documented but who are not allowed to be receiving government support. And HUD has always had a mechanism for dealing with that, in that they would prorate the monies that the families would receive. So there are numerous objections, but one of the most critical is that they're potentially putting low income, often people of color, in a position where either they split up their family so that the one who's allowed to get the subsidy continues to do so, or they do even more to cover the rent, and they're already the most rent burdened people in our society. So Congress has always, through Section 214 of the law of 1980, Congress intends to keep mixed status families together. And the proposed, HUD claims that the proposed rule will bring them into, quote, greater alignment with the wording and purpose of Section 214. However, the proposed rule directly contradicts Section 214 and the underlying congressional intent to limit HUD assistance to eligible family members while allowing them to live with the rest of the family. And I'm trying, I don't want to have to read the whole thing to you and keep you busy with this, but
we've got lots of time because we've had folks drop off that we're going to present. So you've got all the time. Thank you.
This is really, really important stuff. There's no question. In the statute, the original congressional statute unambiguously directs HUD to prorate assistance to mixed status families. But frankly, as we know, they're addressing the substance of these proposed misguided changes. They're not addressing the motivation that animates those changes. Excuse me, italics are mine. The letter doesn't say that. But anyway, that's what's going on. According to CBPP, forgive me, I didn't have a chance to look it up. I'm not sure what it stands for. Nearly 80,000 people could lose assistance if this proposed rule is enacted. That includes 37,000 children, practically all of whom are citizens, right? Because these people came, maybe they weren't documented, they had their children here, and et cetera, et cetera. But there's obviously no concern about that. Latino families represent, I'm sorry?
Just one quick question. The 80,000, that's nationally?
I believe that is meant to be national, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. And the communities that would suffer the most through this would be the Latino community and the Asian community. And it goes on to discuss how immigrants and mixed status families already have so many barriers to finding appropriate housing and are much more likely, as I said earlier, to be cost burdened. And the subsequent housing instability would bring food insecurity, significant lower health outcomes, and disruptions in education. I'm sorry, give me just a second. Instead of further targeting our nation's most vulnerable population and deepening housing inequalities, HUD should focus its resources on expanding access and tenant protections. Additional eligibility, and this, of course, this goes with the territory. Additional eligibility verification burden. So not only are they trying to pass a law or to make these changes in the law that governs HUD, not only are they making it harder for families to stay together, they are adding the requirements for additional documentation in order for people to qualify at all. And the proposed rule, public housing authorities and owners would be required to verify citizenship status of U.S. citizens and the system's alien verification for entitlements, which is meant to be one of the most inaccurate of the government's means of collecting data. If this rule, if finalized, would likely result in many U.S. citizens facing termination of benefits for which they are eligible. And it's not just the tenants or potential tenants that are going to be hideously burdened by this. There's fewer, because of Trump's cuts to agencies like HUD, right? There's fewer staff in the housing world. I'm sorry, where's my, just a second. There's fewer staff in the government, the DC administration and in the PHAs, right? Like what we have in this, forgive me, I'm forgetting the name of our public housing.
NYCHA?
Thank you. Sorry. Anyway, so there's less money for the administration of NYCHA and similar housing communities around the country. And so they're going to be, the staff and the housing itself is going to be further burdened by all of the these potential new requirements. By HUD's own admission, compliance with this rule would cost housing entities like PHAs, right, public housing authorities, between $800,000 and $6 million, and result in fewer HUD housing units. Without corresponding increases in funding or staffing, they will be ill-equipped to implement these changes effectively. At a time when over 21 million renter households are cost burdened, and there is a shortage of 7.2 million affordable rental homes, HUD should not attempt to restrict safety net housing. We strongly urge HUD to withdraw the proposed rule and maintain the current regulatory framework that Section 214 demands. So that lays out in detail where the congressman stands on these issues. I'll take questions. If I can't answer, I will write them down and get back to whomever asks.
Thank you so much.
My
Are there any
pleasure.
questions?
Well, my pleasure. I mean, it's ghastly what we're all witnessing, but
Yeah.
happy to have finally connected. Oh my goodness.
No, we appreciate you coming. I mean, I think that this is, as these kinds of issues develop, please come to us because we can do resolutions, and our committee is really eager to like dive in and to see, like, to the extent that there's anything we can do beyond resolutions. If there are events that the congressman is hosting, discussions, info sessions, even like like rallies and things like that, definitely let us know, because I feel like folks in our committee are really, really, like I said, eager to dive in. I did have just one clarifying question. So the rule, what is the timeline for that? Because like, is it a set, there's 180 or, let's say 60-day comment period, and then there's a 30-day review period, or is it just kind of up in the air, whatever the administration wants to do? What is the timeline on this?
That's an excellent question, and the information that I was sent by my colleagues does not speak to the comment period. The letter that I just excerpted for you was dated April 21st, but I will try to get the information.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Do we have
Really,
any
really
sense of how many New Yorkers might be impacted by this? Or, I mean, it would be great to know how many folks in our district, but I realize that may be even more difficult. But do we have any sort of more local numbers than the 80,000 national
That's
figure?
a very good question. Yeah, I think it's given how much public housing we have in this city, percentage-wise of overall housing, I believe it's more than anywhere else in the country. And it's reasonable to assume that, and given how many mixed households we have, right? It's reasonable to assume that a pretty big share of that 80,000 is going residents.
Section 8, Section 9, does that fall under, both of those fall under this?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Do you happen to know like which specific programs fall under this? Is it like just folks who are in NYCHA? Does it also include like Section 9 housing? Is it all programs probably?
It's everything that's administered by HUD.
Okay, got it. Does anybody else have questions? Folks online, folks in the room on this specific issue? Let me check online. Give folks a chance to unmute. Jay, did you have any follow-up about this?
No, you asked my questions.
Yep. All right.
And I'll just share a couple more points that with regard to SNAP funding, the congressman he took up at the end of April the agriculture funding bill in the appropriations committee, which is an opportunity to introduce amendments that combat the harmful impacts of HR 1. HR 1 is the big, bad, ugly bill. The congressman and his colleagues did introduce amendments to try to increase SNAP funding, and then a similar approach to the 3-year budget reconciliation package for the funding of ICE and CBP. The congressman continues to take a firm stance that there should not be any additional funding unless there is significant oversight. This includes things like protecting sensitive locations and requiring body cameras.
And that's in the
um,
agriculture bill as well, or that's separate?
that's separate.
Okay.
That is separate.
You read my
I think-
mind
oh,
bringing up the
sorry?
SNAP. I was just gonna say, you read my mind with bringing up the SNAP updates. I was gonna ask you, is that, like, what is the timing for that agriculture funding bill? Does that like have a, I'm gonna ask you a million timing questions, sorry. But like, what's our window if we wanted to do a resolution, or, is that something that's gonna happen in the next month? Is that something that needs to happen by October?
Indiana, very good question. And I will, I don't work in the office on Fridays, but I will on Monday jump on this and get more information about exactly what you're asking about, which is the issue of the timelines.
Great, yeah, thank you so much, because if, like I said, if we can do a reso, if we can somehow support, we would love to do that. The other question I had about SNAP is do you know if your office is doing anything to connect folks who are now subject to the work requirements to opportunities? Are you guys tracking like what kind of volunteer opportunities qualify? What kind of documentation, like, does the person, like, the organization with which somebody is volunteering, is there like a specific form that they have to sign? Do you have any insight into like more of the nuts and bolts of how that is being rolled out?
My sense from what I'm seeing and hearing with our constituents is that this is being rolled out very, very slowly.
Okay.
And that people are not being pressed. They will be, but right now it's not, it's not.
But it's only 3 months, right?
What? I'm sorry?
It's only 3 months, like if they only qualify for.
Right.
Sorry.
They only qualify. What were you saying?
So my understanding was that, like, the change took effect in New York March 1st, and that there was like the 3-month buffer for which you qualified without meeting the exact work requirements. And then after that, you were subject to, you had to prove, right, that you were volunteering or training, doing like some sort of workforce training program or working. And so that's coming up soon.
We do regularly share with constituents opportunities for job training, which I believe is, I think that qualifies.
Okay.
For, so that is something that definitely comes up with our constituents. We work closely with Workforce One, which is also located on West 181st Street. And in terms of we saw this play out, I'm dating myself, but during the Clinton administration, right? There'll be no more welfare, it's now all got to be workfare. And ultimately, the impression I got back then anyway, was that people were able to meet the conditions, but we don't, given how erratic and worse this administration is, it is hard to know how that will be administered. But I will look into that as well and get back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, because, I like just exactly like building off of what you just said, right? This administration is so erratic that, like, I worry that they're gonna, if you wanted to volunteer hypothetically at an organization that serves LGBTQ plus populations, like, are they gonna create a problem and decide that they're not gonna approve that volunteer work?
Yep.
Or You know, that kind of information would be great. And to the extent that you are made aware of opportunities, if you guys could please share it with our community board team, because they may be able to include it on our website or in our newsletters, things like that. That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
Do
I
any
mean,
people
something that.
online have questions about SNAP? I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. Any questions here about SNAP? No. Lori, so were there other kind of issue areas that you wanted to update us on?
Well, I had some time ago, there was a question of a quote that I gave the congressman had allocated or had sought to allocate 38 million, and so Jay was saying, we had asked what specifically did that refer to, and it appears that referred to an increase of emergency funding for the shelter and services program for New York City to support the city and nonprofits in providing humanitarian relief to asylum seekers. Unfortunately, the shelter and services program, which lives under FEMA, was cut during the Trump administration, and we can share the press release if anyone would like to see. It's just that I wanted to clarify. Also, just on a different topic, I just wanted to share that some of you probably read New York. I think it's called New York Focus. It's a news, and they said they were covering recently how police upstate, and not necessarily so far upstate, are collaborating with ICE. That if a Spanish-speaking person gets pulled over, and who, driving while Hispanic, right? We know what goes on. But anyway, excuse my asides. No, but my point is that they documented how the cops will stick around and wait for someone from ICE to come. And often this person who just got pulled over, possibly for the most minor of infractions, ends up in jail because the police are working with ICE in that way. So it's possible to let Albany know how we feel about that.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. And, that kind of hits on what the issue area that I work on. And I think there's 9 counties or, throughout the state that have entered into formal agreements to cooperate with ICE. And there is a big financial incentive for law enforcement agencies to do that because of HR 1, which you referenced earlier. They allocated so much money. And while they are hiring more ICE agents, they've got a ton of money. And so they have, there are police departments that now have completely covered salaries and benefits for multiple officers through this kind of funding. So I appreciate you raising that. Do you have a sense, again, a timing question, for the ICE and CBP funding? What does the timeline look like on that? I believe that the fiscal year for Congress ends September 30th. Is that right?
Yes, but I will try to get clarification about the timelines for all of the things we discussed.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions online? Jay, did that answer the question that you had?
On the 38 million that you were saying that although the money was allocated, that there was a recent cut to FEMA that made it pointless, or
right, that money, that because of the cut to FEMA, that even though those monies were allocated for that purpose, it's not clear to me from what my colleagues shared with me, how much of any of that actually got to the programs that were going to be helped by it.
Okay, thank you.
So we didn't get any of the 38 million for the asylum seekers.
I don't know, honestly. It's not clear from the language. I'll
Okay.
try to find out. Yeah, I'll try to find out. But that was where that figure came from.
Got it. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for inviting me. We will do
We
it
have
again.
actually, we've got some questions for you.
Okay.
Hi, Laurie. Thank you so much for being here and for giving us this great update. Being that Espaillat sits on the House Appropriations Committee, can you update us on anything that he may be working for this for the district in that committee? Let's say for this year and even for next year's fiscal year?
No, quite frankly, I'm, there's a big distinction in terms of work scope for those of us who are in the district and for people involved with policy and crafting potential legislation and so on. So I will continue to make sure to educate myself on precisely those kinds of questions and come back to you hopefully with some clarity at the next meeting.
Thank you, because I have a lot of residents and constituents that ask me those questions, and I honestly don't have the answer. So thank you so much for if you can provide an update in the future. I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Any other questions in the room or online?
I guess on the topic of obviously, Laura, you work on the constituent services side in the local office. I'm wondering, besides the topic of immigration status, what other concerns you're hearing from constituents who are coming to the office that maybe we haven't addressed tonight that would be good for us to know about?
Housing. It's just we have homeless people coming in. We have people who get evicted because they don't seek help. They don't know what help to look for, and they don't seek it quickly enough in order for there to, for us to hook them up with lawyers and help to, push back. And we feel in our district, and I think in New York City generally, we feel the housing crisis so directly that, and then there's all these issues of how can we get developers to build more affordable housing, and that's really what housing with deep affordability bands is what we need in this neighborhood. So that is, I would say that we spend a great deal of time dealing with issues of housing and with people going through, people's health being compromised by the lack of concern by their landlords to maintain their properties. Mold and other, terrible things, infestations and so on and so on. So that is very, very, very prominent.
And Laurie, if I could just ask you there, whenever you do have somebody that has an issue like mold or, whatever it is in their apartment units, like the constituent services, do you guys call the city agencies, or like, are you able to kind of put the weight of your office behind some of those requests? And what has been your experience? Like, do you find that the city responds?
We do. HPD definitely does respond. It takes, sometimes repeat contact, but they do respond. I would say they're pretty good in that respect. That's in terms of the housing situation, it's just a crisis. There's just no getting around it. But and we also we sometimes have some luck reaching out directly to the landlords
Oh,
will
that's
advocate
interesting.
for. Oh, yeah. Because remember, so many of our clients, many don't speak any English. Some speak halting English, and they feel they have very little sense of agency because they're so, it's a very difficult situation to be an immigrant in this society. And so having a staff like ours that will readily reach out to the landlords and not, I've developed relationships with the accounting departments of some of the landlords and so on. And you get to know pretty quickly which landlords are credible and decent and will work with you, and which, hardly want to have any contact and are extremely, extremely reluctant. I will say that as much as we advocate for the constituents, it should be acknowledged that tenants can be very, very destructive of the places where they live and seek to use them in inappropriate ways. So it's not all one way. The landlords in this city, some of them who want to do the right thing, they do, and they find themselves under enormous pressure because of the cost of providing the kinds of attention to the buildings that the tenants deserve and the buildings require. So, it's a little bit more nuanced, and we hear about that, of course. But we also get people
resources. Sorry, and just to follow up on that, so thank you for certainly raising, both sides of the issue. What resources are available for the building owners?
I don't, to be honest, I don't, in a formal sense or like in a programmatic sense, I'm not, well, they're actually, it's interesting. If you, there's definitely help of certain kinds, but only like for historic buildings, landmark buildings. So obviously most of our housing stock does not fall into that category. I do believe that there are programs that landlords could take out loans, low interest loans with good terms and whatnot in order to help preserve their buildings. But I don't know all that. I'm not called upon to, respond to that. What we do hear from landlords about is like when Con Ed comes in and decides that they're going to replace all of the infrastructure in a particular block, right? And the landlords can't provide gas to their tenants, and the tenants are livid because that's one of the things, that's an amenity they expect. And the landlords are put in this position by Con Ed. On the other hand, Con Ed has to get this work done. So, you know what I'm saying? We often kind of try to navigate between the two opposing forces, and Con Ed can tie things up, and the MTA can tie things up in ways that really make life difficult for people in all different kinds of ways.
Great, thank you. And I'm sorry, I feel like I cut you off earlier. Was there something else that you were going to put on our radar?
I don't remember.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. And
I mean, you have been very generous with your time, and we appreciate it. I'm going to give folks online just another minute in case there are any more questions. But while we see if anyone has follow-ups, we would love to you are always invited. We would love to hear from you. We invite you to, any and all meetings. And if there is a way to have like maybe somebody from the legislative team, even if they can just come once a year or something like that, that would be great too, just to get a sense of what's going on there. I think that
unfortunately, that they don't tend to come north very much, but I will
But that's,
definitely
we've
share
got
that.
Zoom, they can stay down there.
Right, that's true. That's a really good point. That is a really good point. If you have to come, it would be nice, but we could do this through a Zoom. Okay, I will definitely propose that to the legislative director.
Thank
see
you.
if
And then
he
I'm
thinks
gonna
that
put an idea out there that is crazy, and I've floated it here, but like something for you guys to simmer on. Like, what if we pick a building that has a lot of issues, right? And we help every single person file a complaint like at the same time, right? And then we've got all of the elected officials, Congress, state electeds, local electeds, calling the city agencies, like we somehow like really start to focus so that instead of them getting like a million calls from, one call from each building, like say, all right, here are all the issues on X building, and put like a lot of pressure at the same time on city agencies to respond. Something for you guys to simmer on, because I think that that is like a way that, they're gonna hear our collective complaints at the same time, and then we can say, all right, in a month, has this issue been addressed? Yes or no, right? And so it can kind of help us sort of standardize response times. So I tell everybody that, something for you guys to simmer on, but.
all right, I wish everybody a good evening, and I hope to come back sometime soon.
Thank you so much. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Lizette.
your time.
Bye. Okay, good. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, you too.
Speaking of what you were just saying, when I interned in an assembly office a few years ago, we did something like that. This is in South Brooklyn. It was for an A&E building, a specific one that had a lot of Section 8 tenants, and there were a lot of just a ton of issues, obviously. And so in that context, what we did was we first had a tenants meeting in the office. And then we had, I don't think they were attorneys, but two people that worked with attorneys in a nonprofit, had them come file complaints all together, gave it to the attorneys. And then I think after that, the assembly member went and held another tenants meeting in the actual building. So that's,
Amazing.
the type of thing that we could probably do.
Well,
I would
turnout,
really
how
love to
how
do that.
So the turnout at the office, the assembly office was fine. And I think that the main goal was to hand out the sheets that people can make the complaints and then make floor captains. And then I think going back, the goal was, okay, now there's going to be a lot of people who now have had the time with the sheets and now can give them back. I actually wasn't with it was only for a summer, so I wasn't there anymore by the time that happened. So I can't speak to the end effects, efficacy, but that was certainly a really good way of, I think, organizing.
I'm sure it made an impact.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like, okay, I'm not completely.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that. But yeah, so we had a neighbor come at one of our like earlier meetings, right? And she had been super proactive within her building and was trying to get folks to file formal complaints with 311. And so, especially given some of the language access issues, I know that 311 has information or has like language capacity, but sometimes just letting people know about 311 and the importance of filing the complaints, things like that, I think that we may be able to get more involved in. Anybody online have anything else that they want to raise? Any questions, topics that they, want to put on our radar for discussion next time? And if not, then we can pivot to our resolution, but I just kind of want to open the floor. Thoughts about the congressional update we just got? All right, I don't see.
That's random.
Oh, go ahead. What, Jay?
I have a quick question. I am on 181st Street between Audubon and St. Nicholas Avenue. And I would say that for the past 4 to 5 months, Con Edison has been doing repairs between Amsterdam and Wadsworth Avenue. And their work, I understand that Con Ed has to work during the nighttime.
Oh,
to
we're
not
losing.
disrupt.
Sorry. We lost you after you understand.
Oh, I
We
understand
lost
that.
you after you said,
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay. I understand that Con Ed has to work at night to avoid disrupting traffic. But for, I would say, goodness, it's either 4 or 5 months. They have been working starting at 1:30 in the morning and finishing at about 5 o'clock in the morning. Hence, residents on 181st Street between Amsterdam and Wadsworth are not sleeping. And it's 6 to 7 days a week. There's no break. Honestly, last night I called 311, not last night, at 3 in the morning. And I'm like, this would never happen on Park Avenue or in Lexington. This is ridiculous. People are not sleeping, and it's hazardous. It's a health hazard.
Yeah.
Sonia, what did 311 respond?
They sent it over to environmental protection.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
But I mean,
And how long has it been going on?
I would say 4 to 5 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the bizarre thing is that they drill the same holes every, 1:30 in the morning, and then they cover up the same holes at 5 in the morning, and then they go and they re-drill it again the next morning. I mean, it makes, and then they're throwing asphalt all over it, right? So it's like this whole project is not making any sense. And I know that they could not get away with it in a white neighborhood.
I appreciate you raising that. That's certainly something that we could talk to, I think even our district manager and our council.
And Steve.
Oh, yeah, well,
I'm
yeah.
pointing at him. He's right there.
Any thoughts?
Any help with this would truly be appreciated, because honestly, not sleeping throughout the night is not an
No,
option.
absolutely, yeah. Does anybody have something to contribute to that?
I would certainly flag it for Kiana, because then she could, follow up with DEP and
Yeah,
yeah.
that like your local council member or the community board should be able to help with that.
Great. Any other issues? All right. I will put up our resolution. So, because we've got folks remote, unless I think, what is our quorum? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we don't have quorum in person. And so we won't be able to vote on our resolution. I would say let's update it, and I will take it to the exec meeting and see if it's possible for us to vote it and put it to the general board through an exec committee vote. I'm not exactly sure how that works. I need to confirm, but I say let's update it. Let's do an informal vote on it, and then I can take it to exec and we'll pass it. If not, if we cannot do it that way, then in June, we could pass it and it would go before the board, I think 2 or 3 days before the final vote occurs. So, we'll be out for 3 days versus a month and 3 days, but unless anybody has any objection, then that's my plan. We'll informally vote tonight. I'll try and put it before the exec board and see if we can advance it that way. Sound good? Okay. Let me share the resolution. Thank you so much, Stefan, for drafting this. Really appreciate it. I'm gonna do sections like this. And if you don't mind, I would actually love for you to talk us through. All I'll say is that the reason that we've highlighted is because the
I actually have an update on that.
Oh, you do? Okay,
yeah,
awesome. So
I
I will stop
just
talking and you take it away.
I just looked it up because I know the meeting of the rent guidelines board was today during our committee time. And I've only seen a very short clip of it, so I know for 1 year leases, their recommendation was actually a decrease. It was a -3% to 0% increase, as it would be, of rents. So essentially, the rent guidelines board is advocating for a rent freeze or a reduction in rent. And my understanding is that they voted in the affirmative for that. Of course, this is a preliminary vote, so there will be more chance for public commentary before the official vote in June. But it seems like this resolution, were we to pass it, or CB12 to pass it, would essentially just be supporting RGB's calls for a rent freeze or a reduction in rent. So I think that's great news for anyone who's in support of this resolution. But the only other thing I'll say about the reso is that this is based off of last year's resolution that was passed, I believe, in June of 2025. So the format is pretty similar. But what I've done is updated the statistics here based on the 2026 income and affordability study that the Rent Guidelines Board released earlier this year, I believe in April. And I'll flag that the only statistic that I don't have, which isn't in that report, and would require a little bit further resources, the median household income of our district. I know that our district needs report has a number that it shows there, but I don't know how accurate that is, given that it's actually lower than this number that's here. And from the research that I found, I've been able to find a number which is 66,000 based on the American Community Survey of 2024, but there is a very large margin of error there of plus or minus $10,000. So I wouldn't necessarily trust the 66 number. I think the next step in that would be to see if the district office has a more accurate tell of what our median household income is for the district. And if not, I can also take some time to calculate it based on census tracts, but that would just take a little longer is all.
Thank you so much. So this figure that is here, the 57,000, where does that come from?
That is based off of last year's reso, the 2025 reso. So I would imagine it wouldn't be too different exactly. But again, I'm not sure the source of last year's reso's statistic.
Jay, didn't you help draft this? You and Tanisha, maybe?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Did you were you involved in drafting this last year, like doing the updates?
Most of it, then, but it was
Tanisha, maybe? Because I know it was based on the preceding year's reso. Like we basically just updated certain parts of this. Okay.
Which
So
one are you?
On the whereas in 2024, 51.6% of tenants, excluding those receiving rental assistance, were considered rent burdened. And then at the bottom of that, we've got median household income is $57,117. Do you happen to remember where that came from?
Not off the top of my head, but I know any of those numbers when I fact checked them, they were like from reports, either from a national organization or a New York City based sort of report.
Okay, so we may I can also try and help and see if we can find something to corroborate that. I mean, I don't doubt it, especially since like like again, because it's the same thing and we just kind of updated it not that long ago. I imagine it still holds. Did anybody have any questions? Is there anything that folks feel like we need to add? If not, yes.
Well, I just it would be. I just don't think I see it here. It would be, I think, useful information to include what percentage of rent stabilized units there are in Washington Heights and Inwood, so we know what we're talking about. in the resolution, but that's just, I know I'm not part of this committee, so.
No.
I
No,
don't know if you could discuss this.
no, we are so excited that you're joining us because
Thank you.
really, truly. Okay, so I'm just gonna take notes. So trying to identify how many units are in the district. Okay. Any other thoughts, folks online? Okay, so,
Just
yeah,
you
go
can
ahead.
keep going, but I'm trying to find which report it came from.
Okay, thank you. So then just for the nuts and bolts, right? Let's add a scheduled. Whereas, I'm just gonna say at a public hearing, especially since it's happened. Oh, well, actually, I won't be able to update this, I don't think, in real time because I don't have the reso. Let's see. Very, very bad at the technology piece.
Yeah, it's just a PDF, right?
Yeah, yes, it's a PDF. Okay, so I won't be able to update it in real time, but I am taking notes. I would like to cut the schedule to say at a public hearing on May 7th, 2026, the New York City Rent Guidelines Board proposed. And so we could just say, it's obviously not an unjustifiable increase, so we can just say proposed maintaining or reducing rents for rent stabilized apartments. And right? Okay, can
Right.
trouble you please for a hard copy of the reso? Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So yeah, rent freeze. And then what are so the percentages that you gave us were for just 1-year leases? Is that right?
That's right.
Okay,
But what were they again? 2% to 3 something?
It was -3 to 0. The thing is, this was posted on YouTube like 16 minutes ago, so it's all very fresh.
okay.
So
But
I think
we'll
we might have
confirm.
to wait to confirm. Yeah, I was just like listening to the YouTube on the side, so we can certainly confirm right after this.
Okay, great. And then the bottom clause here that says, and to be finalized in June 2026, was that like that in the reso for last year? Kind of like the bottom piece of that square?
Yes, that was like that last year. Yeah, referring to the the actual vote that'll happen in June.
Okay. For the
But we can
second,
certainly adjust that if that's of interest.
okay, yeah, I just wasn't sure. Just wanted to confirm that it wasn't like we accidentally deleted a whereas, and by we, I mean me, whenever I started to poke around. So thank you. In the following whereas, since they're not proposing increases, it seems like, what if we say whereas potential increases would come amid record housing insecurity? That seem okay? Any objections? Any other suggestions? This is okay. Let me continue scrolling. I really love all these statistics that you pulled, so thank you very much. Let's see, so the unemployment rate, consumer price index, wages. I don't have any edits to these bullets. All right, anything else to add to those bullets? Anybody have comments? No? All right, so we'll continue scrolling. The only thing I'll add is I'm gonna look at our reso from last month about SNAP recipients. I found a statistic for the percentage of individuals who are SNAP recipients in our district. And so maybe we can add that as one of those bullets if there's no objection.
That sounds
Okay.
great to me. Yeah.
Great. If I can find a statistic for Medicaid, I will add that as well. Okay. We're gonna see if we can find something to cite for the bullet that starts off in 2024, which is what Jay's looking at right now. But I'm okay, like I said, because it's only a year old, I can't imagine that the median household income has shifted that much in our district. Let's see, rent hikes disproportionately harm working class communities of color, seniors on fixed income, incomes from immigrants, these rising costs of living, while wages remain stagnant. Okay. All right, I don't have any other proposed income or any proposed edits to the subsequent whereases. So I'm just gonna pause for a second, and before we talk about the resolved, just gonna pause and give anyone a chance to raise any other questions, suggestions. Okay. Let me make sure that I'm not missing anybody in the chat. I don't think I am. Okay, bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the resolved, recognizing astronomical rents, inflation, among other challenges facing New Yorkers, including the looming cuts by the federal administration, Community Board 12 Manhattan strongly urges the New York City Rent Guidelines Board to, I mean, we could in theory, right, say adopt a rent reduction or freeze if we want to be, you know, a little bit like, I would just say reduction. I don't think we need it. I mean, I don't know, I would say a reduction, but we can say, how about adopt a rent reduction or freeze?
I think didn't they already kind of pre-approve the reduction?
So it's a preliminary
Right.
vote, right?
Right. So
I
I
know.
think reduction probably makes more sense right now.
So don't say freeze, just say reduction. That's how I would lean, but I welcome others' feedback on that.
Well, in that case, do you want to just change the percentages to whatever it is that they're considering? Because if we're like more aligning with whatever they're doing.
The subsequent bullets, you mean the subsequent? Yeah, I think that we would, yeah.
Yeah. And I just checked the YouTube again. It's for 1 year leases, it is -3% to 0%. For 2 year leases, it's -4.5% to 0%.
Okay. So we could switch the order for starters. We can say we strongly urge the New York City Rent Guidelines Board to consider a rent reduction, recognizing the overwhelming financial hardships faced by rent stabilized tenants as reflected, and maybe we don't need to we can just delete the adopt a rent freeze, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other edits or thoughts before we do our unofficial vote? Okay. So, just checking the any edits that we need to do in the title, resolution calling on to adopt a rent. Well, we can tweak the title to like a rent reduction or freeze for rent regulated apartments. Okay, all right, so then if somebody wants to call a vote and second, well, actually, true. I was, yeah, like, since it's unofficial, we don't have to do that. And then the other thing is, for the relevant organizations, I imagine we'll just do the Rent Guidelines Board. Anybody else that we want to CC on our reso? Okay,
Our elected officials, no?
Mm-hmm.
all right, which ones?
Council?
City council, all of them.
So, Carmen, Abreu,
Larissa, Abreu. Okay,
Manny de los Santos,
okay,
Spaliad,
Robert Jackson.
Jackson,
Al Taylor, and yeah.
You could, I mean, it could also be like the borough president, I don't know.
it could also be who?
I mean, borough president.
Okay,
Next month, same time, same place.
I'll try.
all right, I will add that. I always try to be careful since I work for city government.
Oh, yes.
All right, so then let's just do an unofficial vote, and I'll just start with, does anybody need to abstain?
I don't need to abstain, obviously I wrote it, but I have a correction, so I'm looking at a Gothamist article now. It seems that some members of the board suggested a decrease of the percentages that I recommended, or that I shared. But the actual,
Want to comment on the proposed rule at a
That's
public
Sorry,
hearing?
somebody's
Sign up to speak.
Somebody's
I think it's
TV
Janae.
or video or
Is that
something.
the YouTube of the,
NYC College of Technology, 285
I think that's maybe Jay.
Jay?
/ rules dot city.
Jay, I think we hear your.
Do we have anybody
Let's
else?
see if I can
Trying to
mute.
listen to.
All right,
So they
so
uploaded the video, so I'm trying to see what they said.
Yeah, so a correction. So some folks on the board had recommended the decreases that I mentioned, but it seems that the final vote established the parameters at a range of 0 to 2% for 1 year and 0 to 4% for 2 year. So that's either a freeze or an increase. But so
Sorry, I'm
that
just gonna
might,
have you repeat that one. So
Yeah.
they suggested the -3 to 0, but for 1 year, and then what they actually landed on was
0 to 2%.
right, 0 to 2% increase for 1 year leases and 0% to 4% on 2 year leases.
they voted already? I did preliminary.
They've done the preliminary vote already. Yep. Was that your question, Eitan? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool.
I suggest keeping it at 5%. Why would we change?
Well, it might make more sense, is if there's already people on the board that are suggesting, like the people that are most willing to suggest a decrease are suggesting less than what we're saying, it might make more sense to say, oh, we're supporting what they're saying rather than be like our own.
So I guess the max would be 3%, that you're saying -3%.
Yeah, I mean, and you could word it to say we support the suggestions of Red Guidelines board members who have put forward this X number or whatever.
I open up the floor for thoughts on that recommendation.
I support that personally. I would support that. And if there are objections to that, then at the very least we should, I think, continue to call for the freeze. But I would support, as Eitan brought up, the reduction.
Great. And do you mind making the edits and sending it back my way?
Yeah,
Do you have
absolutely.
time to do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay. Any other issues before we do our unofficial vote? No abstentions, it seems like. Does anybody oppose the proposed resolution? Okay, so unofficially, who supports the resolution? All in favor? Okay,
Is Marcia still with us?
I'm gonna stop sharing so that I can get folks back visible, I think, somehow. All right. Okay, folks, so it just seems like a unanimous vote, no abstentions, no objections to our unofficial show of support. I will let you know what happens when I bring it up at the exec committee. And I will just tell them that because the vote was happening as we were here, we didn't have a chance to fully vote on the full reso, in addition to our quorum issues. Is there anything else that folks would like to bring up, put on our radar for next time? All right.
I actually wanted to discuss, I
Thank
know
you,
how
yeah.
we're trying to
Yes.
be proactive with the presentation.
Yes.
And we
Sorry.
have June kind of lined up.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Jay?
I found it.
Okay.
They
Read it
actually
out loud
landed.
and then can you email it to us as well?
Well, I was talking about the what the preliminary.
Oh, the
actually
rent.
landed on.
Yes, okay, sorry, go ahead.
They actually ended up voting for 1-year leases at 0 to 2%,
Yep,
and 2-year leases 0 to 4%.
got it. Thank you.
So that's the prelim votes. That just means like the next official vote, they'll either choose a number between that.
Got it.
They choose 0, they choose 2 for the 1 year, or 0 to 4.
Well, now we have to make sure we have that phrase in there, in the wording,
Mm-hmm.
at least trying to get them.
Yes, yes, thank you. So keep the bullet about freezing.
Could you just
Okay.
send me the who wrote this up? Like if you could send me the Word doc so I can just look
Yeah,
at the
it's in
references.
yeah, I
for
can re-up it.
information.
It's in the I think Indy made a version 3 that's in the our shared drive.
Yes.
Okay.
And you should have the link in your email, Jay. If you could save it as draft 4, just because I'm super annoying about stuff like that.
Okay.
Thank you. Please, that I really appreciate the work that you did on this.
Yeah, it was a quick research, but so NIMIC, I was told NIMIC is, is really beneficial for us to try to get them in.
Yeah.
I know June, as of right now, we have HPD
Mhm.
and Senator Jackson's coming in, so I don't know if it makes sense to try to get somebody else for June. And maybe should we work on the other side of September?
Yeah, I would say September.
Do you want us to try to fill the back end of the year with presentations, like being proactive and try to see what makes sense around that time of year? And maybe we can work on a calendar to try to get people in.
I would
Well,
definitely support that.
Because my concern is, let's say things come up, like, and then they cancel, and we've been planning this for months, and then it's like they cancel or something comes up and now we don't have somebody to present.
Yeah. The one idea I had, and again, like folks online, like please chime in. I was thinking like maybe we just start to look like ask multiple organizations. And if we do have everybody show up, then folks can get 7 minutes each or 5-6 minutes each. But at least we established some sort of contact.
Mhm.
We can have the recording where they can share what their contact information is, where they're located, the kind of work that they do. And the reality, I think, is we will have cancellations and then that will just allow more time for discussion. So I would certainly support that. What do folks online think? I see some nodding, so that's good.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
also on youth and education, we typically, or there are times where we'll have, multiple presenters, and I think just, being mindful of keeping it to 10 minutes is a good best practice. But
How
I
many do you
certainly
guys invite usually?
I can recall at least 1 or 2 meetings where we've had 3 presenters.
Okay.
So I think it's common that we'll kind of just invite as many as we think is doable, and then, you know, if people people cancel, and
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you want me to talk about, do you
Yeah.
want us to take this like offline and then we can talk, no?
No, I would say like the more online we are, the better.
Okay, so I was thinking, Northern Mahan, which is Nimic, they're, I believe they're really present in different types of things that will help our committee, housing, and I feel the human services as well. So I feel that that's a good choice maybe for September. Also, sorry,
No, take your time. Take your time.
like I've mentioned before, Isabel Abreu from Al Taylor's, I think we should try to get her in. She has a lot of stats that she was sharing with me, and I think if we can start to get a full understanding of why, let's say, like the aging community that's now being unhoused, these are record levels. Obviously, we know it has to do with marketing housing and all that, but try to get the numbers as to what stats is really causing this to jump to the levels that we haven't seen before. So I think that bringing speakers like this would be great.
And you felt like she had that kind of
I
information.
thought
Oh,
that
that's
she
great.
did, and I told her work on getting more.
Yeah. I love it.
So I think that she would be a great person to bring in.
And do you think like, would it be smart to like invite them to the same meeting? Or do you think it's just like, or, I mean, I'm genuinely asking, like, should we
I
say,
think as much information as we can get in any meeting, it doesn't really.
doesn't
It's
have to
hard
be like a
enough to bring
theme?
'em in,
Yeah,
correct. It's
exactly.
hard enough
Got
to
it.
bring them in. If we can get them in here, I think that's the win.
Okay.
There is one more that I wanted to bring up.
Hey, you said several.
I know.
I recommend you highlight all of that.
So Metropolitan Council on Housing, it's really good right now because of the rent guideline board. They have good contact on that. And so I think the timing, I just don't know if maybe then for September, would that be too late for just focusing on that? Because this would be done.
I mean, if they handle housing, I'm sure that they can speak to just the broader issues.
Okay.
And then building the relationships early, I think we had talked about in some of our earlier planning meetings, right, of focusing in the fall on meeting with as many groups as possible, since we've got to do our budget recommendations in October.
So maybe what I can do, so budget is by October, so maybe September, we should focus on honest, like obviously anything that's housing and human services,
Yeah,
doesn't matter the thing.
we just say like, let us know.
But if it's budget relating or timing about that, then maybe we should prioritize that. So maybe I can do a little more research and share it with you guys.
That would be great. Thank
So if
you.
it's budget related, we'll get them in September.
And the other thing that we can do, I believe, and Jay, you may know this, but our budget document that we submit, the statement of needs, right? Like that's public. Once it's finalized, we actually could send it to the organizations and say, like, this is what we prioritized last year. Like, give us your thoughts on it, right? Like if they have feedback, like, oh, you know what, this program like wasn't on your radar, like I recommend you take a look at that. Or if they can, the other thing that would be helpful is like, we had requested to meet with the agency to try and identify like a concrete number for somehow. So like, if there's like an initiative that's about rehabilitating, right? Like we just said, focus more resources, right? But we wanted to say at least 2 buildings, And so the providers, the organizations like may have more of a concrete sense of like what a realistic number would be, where we didn't get any kind of information from the city agencies.
I know, so that's what's challenging, because when we get back, we're gonna have like a month, maybe 2.
So maybe reaching out now, like, we can like put a bug in their ear, right? And if they're interested, then they can come prepared in September.
This is my first year, so obviously everything is new to me, but I do kind of feel like the budget process was kind of rushed.
I
And
agree.
it's like, how can we maximize and try to do a good job when, we're kind of rushed doing it? So I don't know if
agree.
that's just as a whole or the city as a whole or, So maybe, what can we do to maybe have it more well planned and thought out, starting now?
Yeah, I welcome discussion about this.
I think
Why,
it's
why don't
probably-
we relook at the budget now in our June meeting?
So can we put together maybe for the June meeting, hopefully we have some presentations. But can we put together, like Sonia, you said in our last meeting, maybe a recap of what we've done in this year and the people that have, come and spoken and stuff like that. And maybe start working on the budget needs for October and June, so that would be the agenda.
I
That sounds
motion,
like yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sonia, sorry.
I said I motioned.
I second. Okay, so if you guys, I think everyone has access. Marshall, I need to confirm with you and see if you have access to the file that I created online where I put in the draft resolution. And I think that the budget spreadsheet that we looked at for our budget priorities for this past year is saved in that file. And so I can just do like save like a new version of it and we can draft that too. And then at our next meeting, we can put it and, display it during our meetings. Does that sound good to folks? Any other ideas from our online participants about organizations or, and do you have contacts with any organizations that you would feel comfortable reaching out? I think when we had talked about this before, as long as you CC me and Jay, I'm okay with folks, taking initiative. All right, well, any other thoughts? Sorry, Marshall?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, is there a link that you can put in the chat or something so I can check to see if those docs are available to me?
Yes, I can certainly do that. And it also
Or
is in
send me
the
an email?
Yes, so in the emails that I shared, sent yesterday and today, there should be a link, but I'm happy to re-forward it and just put the link so that it's right there at the top so you can see it.
That'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll do that as soon as I get home.
Okay.
And Marshall, honestly, since I've got you off mute, if you have recommendations on who at NYCHA we can connect with, like I really, really, really in this coming year want to get some folks from NYCHA to come and chat with us. So we can maybe brainstorm a little bit in the meantime.
I can check, but one of the things that NYCHA is good for doing is that they like to play musical chairs. And when things get a little hairy, then they kind of restack the deck and you got to deal with new people and stuff like that. So I'm not sure. And honestly, I'm not really in the I'm not part of the board anymore, so I don't know who they're dealing with now. But I can certainly include that in some of my conversations with some of the board members and see what's going on. But they like doing these things. I mean, I've dealt with them for a while. And when we started putting too much heat on them, next thing you know, we got someone else to be so
Got it. Well, listen, we're lucky to have you.
they're kind of shisty at times. I'm not sure if it's getting any better either.
All right, well, listen, we do what we can. And also, it's not just all on you, right? So that goes for all of our members. Like if you've got organizations that work closely with of NYCHA, or like if you know any of the tenant organizers, you know, the leaders of that, let us know, because I really, really want to make sure that we reach out to them. And that holds true though, like I said, for any organizations. I think, you know, we can also do kind of like a planning spreadsheet to track, like, okay, we emailed these organizations. That way we don't all send, you know, 20 emails and get 10 confirmations and 7 people show up and then don't have time. So we can do like a tracking spreadsheet, and then just for transparency reasons, you know, each month I can pop it up, or, you know, we can just say like, we have reached out to these organizations. We've been, you know, 2 of them accepted, 1 of them is pending, 2 didn't respond or said no, just to like put it all out there. But we can have kind of like a running working spreadsheet for the committee members in the meantime.
That's a good idea.
Sound good?
I just wanted to put it out there, like, this is an election year. We don't know who's gonna, you know, be voted in or out. So planning ahead, like maybe we should, I don't know if there's like a calendar set up where at the new term, like invite the person in,
Yeah,
the new admin, whoever that is.
for,
So maybe November right away, no, so maybe December, January.
for like the state offices and federal. Okay, yeah, that's something I think it's a great idea. I will just run it by Anthony and Kiana, just to make sure that like they don't want to take the lead on like the first invite or communications or anything like that. But I do like the idea, so I'm certainly, I will add it, and it's something I can raise in executive committee. Is there anything else that reminds me that like just generally like about membership, about the way that we're doing things? If you have that kind of concern, please raise it, because I'm happy to elevate it at exec. So just throwing that out there too, but inviting newly elected or re-elected. And the idea is for them to not just come to like the general meeting, but to come and speak to us. Yeah. Got it. Any other ideas? Anything else folks want to discuss? Going once, going twice. All right, well, go ahead, Sonia.
I just, this might sound far-fetched.
I
However,
love it. I love it.
when you say bring it up to the executive board, I think it would be ideal if the executive board could address the borough president's office to provide MTA cards for traveling purposes to the meetings that we have to attend on a monthly basis. I know that with the civic engagement group, there is a stipend for that. And it does come out of the borough president's office. So yeah, I mean, you know, each of us have to attend 3 meetings a month. And some of us have to walk quite a distance.
I'm happy to raise it. Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
Yeah, if nothing else, we can learn, right? Like who the right people to ask are, what. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Any other ideas? Okay. Are there any motions?
Motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay.
Wait, before we adjourn, I just wanted to, there was a serious fire on Dyckman Street earlier this week, and I
Yes.
just wanted to,
Thank you.
that we think and keep in our thoughts and prayers for, I mean, as I understand it, 2 people did pass in the fire, and
I think now 3.
I believe there were a lot of, there have been reports that there were a lot of violations in 207, which is the building that burned, and 209, which is the next door building, both
Same owner.
properties by the same owner or whatever. But I'm focusing more on the victims, and that, I mean, this is why we're here in some aspects. as far as
Thank
this
you so
committee.
much for raising that. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I had forgotten, yeah.
I wanted to bring that up earlier when we were speaking about HPD because HPD did issue, I believe, a violation like a week
Yeah.
prior to the fire to the adjacent building, which is the same owner. Now, I wanted to bring it up, like, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Bringing up the victims and the family and the condolences to the entire community because, you know, it impacts the entire community. But, part of the reason why I also wanted to discuss earlier is like, how can we find out how the owner is being held, let's say the landlord is being held accountable and stuff like that? How can we have HPD give us, let's say, updated of how many cases like this do we have in these aging buildings? Because I think part of the problem is we have a lot in Washington Heights and Inwood, we have a large amount of aging buildings that I know it's extremely, we've discussed here plenty of times how expensive these repairs are. And I'm glad that maybe they do have loans, but some of them are not putting in the work. So how do we know that the violations are actually being, you know, they're going after them or they're being implemented, you know? So those updates.
Listen, whenever we have our presentation next month, certainly we want to ask questions about what they're presenting, but I encourage all of us to ask all of the questions. They may not be able to answer on the spot, but I really have been trying to stress in every communication that we've been trying to engage with them for several months now, since October. And so I please like think ahead. We can start a spreadsheet for that of the kind of questions that we have. And you know, even if it doesn't have to be like an on the spot answer, but we can say, you know, and I can include it in our minutes, right? These are the questions that we handed you and that we're hoping like it can be like a request, right? Like these are the kinds of things we want to know about. If you can give us, if not a monthly update, like quarterly updates, how many buildings in our district, you know, how many complaints did you get, that kind of information. It doesn't hurt to ask. And I'm super on board with that. Any other thoughts online? What I can say, and the one thing I really appreciate, Marshall, you raising that. I had forgotten to mention it, honestly. I have some sort of informal updates, right? My understanding is that 3 individuals have passed away and that several are in the hospital in very serious condition. I think it's like 4 or 5 individuals are still very, very serious condition. It's my understanding that the building is completely shut down, right? Like nobody is able to like return to live there and that it will take quite some time to make any progress on that. My understanding is that there's about 100 residents who are now fully displaced. The Red Cross was able to provide, I think, 2 nights of a hotel stay. And then after that, HPD has been in touch with them and they had set up like a central location to do intakes for shelter placement. Some of the residents have been able to find places to live with family members or friends. Some of them are going to need to go to shelter. The other kind of tidbit of information that I learned is that there was like a big drive for clothing and kind of like emergency, you know, things that people need. And they're not accepting any more donations of items of clothing and household goods. There may be an opportunity for cash donations. I need to make sure that that's okay, you know, with Anthony and with Kiana and everybody, that maybe we can put a link in our newsletter or something like that. So that's something I have on my other list of questions to bring up at executive. But they also did connect folks with caseworkers from Catholic Charities who were doing kind of like intake to see if people qualified for emergency public benefits, emergency housing allocations and things like that. So hopefully we will have some updates on that from Senator Jackson's office. I got some of those updates there, some of the updates from Kiana. There was tonight a vigil, honoring those who passed away. Unfortunately, it conflicted with our meeting. But yeah, those are the updates that I have.
But to clarify, so I thought they weren't accepting donations until they can, I guess, figure out what's needed. So is it like final, like they're not accepting donations?
So
Temporary.
my understanding, I spoke with folks from Senator Jackson's office last night. So as of 10 p.m. last night, I think Holy Trinity Church had begun collecting items and clothing and things like that. And my understanding is like they got what they needed and they're not accepting like any more items right now. There may be other organizations that say like drop things off. And I saw actually here that there's a box
Yes.
for donation items. So there may be community organizations and entities that continue to accept, but at least as of right now, the effort that I think Senator Jackson's office was involved with, they're not accepting anything else. But I'm happy to follow up, right? And if I get updates, I'm happy to share them via email and then Kiana's super plugged in. So she may have information that goes out into the broader outreach emails. Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you, Marshall, and thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna revive the past motion to adjourn and my second. Any objections?
No objection.
All right, we support it.
Yes.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
great. Folks, thank you so much for your patience, for all of your contributions. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you guys very soon.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night. Everybody feel
Yeah.
better.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for coming to our meeting. I'm so sorry. I should have asked you to come.
No, I like sitting in the audience better. I
Okay.
actually wanted to say that next year, maybe you've heard